Good morning. Welcome to everyone that has joined the webinar this morning. I hope you enjoyed today. This is an introduction to Jamf Protect endpoint protection built exclusively for Mac. You have myself on here. My name is Gary Collins. I am the lead MDM consultant for Academia and Tama, and Ross Drummond, who's a systems engineer over at Jamf. So I will be helping with the Q&A section at the end of this webinar as well. So on the right-hand side, you can see the chat. Please leave your questions in there and I'll ask them as we go along, and we'll do a section at the end. But for now, I'm going to pass you on to Ross.
Brilliant. Cheers, Gary. Good morning, everyone. Let me just set up your screen sharing and we should be good to go. All right, cool. So I'm just going to take you through, let's get rid of that little notification. Perfect. Everything sort of Jamf Protect today. This is actually, this deck we've got here is effectively a deck we do if customers such as yourselves would request for a demo. So some of it might be go into some more detail than you'd like, but I think it's the reason I've chosen to do this is that I think it's actually a really good indication. It gives you a good idea of actually what the product does rather than just giving you kind of the top level sales stuff. So yeah, just to confirm, it's me, Ross Drummond. I'm systems engineer for Jamf for UK and Ireland. So I've been with Jamf for be about 2 years in August now, actually. Yeah, look after all things Jamf. And obviously, since the time I've joined, Jamf has gone from being sort of a 2-product house, Jamf Pro and Jamf Now, to now having an entire suite of applications. Jamf Connect and Jamf School and now Jamf Protect. So yeah, excited to tell you about Jamf Protect. It's a totally new adventure for us as a company, and certainly as somebody whose background's all sort of MDM, to start learning about endpoint protection is a whole new world. So I guess the biggest thing about Jamf Protect and everything else at Jamf is that Jamf kind of prides itself on being industry leaders when it comes to Apple devices. So we've got a great relationship with Mac admins and with Apple, the Apple ecosystem. And I think if anyone who's ever such as myself, and I'm sure a lot of folks on this call have ever worked with Macs, that a lot of the time the endpoint security on Macs is either just kind of something you get chucked from the security team, some installer, some script that can kind of slow down your device, can cause weird things to happen. It's always been a bit of a second class citizen, and I guess at Jamf, one thing we're really proud ourselves on is obviously making sure the Mac is and any Apple device is a first class citizen and is getting the best experience because folks like using Apple devices. So Jamf Protect is an endpoint security solution. It's purpose built for the Mac, and it takes advantage of Apple's built-in frameworks. So we don't use any kernel extensions or anything like that. So the end users kind of get the best experience on the Mac, whilst you as security and IT departments get the best information relevant to your device. So we kind of continually identify ways to enhance those native features, and the way we do that is by using some monitoring pieces, some detection pieces, some prevention pieces, and then obviously some remediation pieces, and that ties in nicely with Jamf Pro as well. So I guess now it's time to start sort of looking in Jamf Protect in action. So I'm going to show you these kind of 3 use cases that we have that kind of tie into these 4: monitoring, detection, prevention, remediation. And finally, and then sort of like how it can detect and respond to behavioral events and like unknown events. So, quite a lot of the time, obviously, we only know what we know, as it were. What's already out there. The whole idea with Protect is it's looking at sort of things that we don't know about. So sort of unusual events that aren't listed on some, like here are all the known malware, things like that. So I guess we'll jump right in and talk about sort of this use case for monitoring and visibility, compliance and auditing. So obviously, if those who don't know, Mac OS comes preloaded with built-in security features. So there's things like X Protect. Just going to pause this video a second. Things like Gatekeeper, MRT. There's developer signing, notarization services, and these tools that Apple have are really cool, right? they are all happening in the background. X-Protect is doing stuff on our devices all the time, but I guess the biggest issue is that you as IT departments and you as security departments don't get any visibility into that. It's doing good things for your devices. You just don't know when it's doing it and how it's doing it. This video here, customers downloaded, Handbrake. They've gone to open it, and it's coming up with an error saying it's not signed. And then you get a little notification there saying, actually, we suggest you eject this, so the user does. So if we look here on Protect, we actually get an alert. So this is obviously something you probably haven't seen before on your device. A user would get that information, but now it's the first time ever we've been able to see that event happening on the device. And then we get more data there, so you can actually see, where the path of that file comes from. You can see that Gatekeeper activity in action, and if you have integration with a SIM, so like a Splunk or something like that, that information could be sent to there. Now that activity detection isn't the only visibility you're going to get into the native security tools. So we actually also, Jamf Protect takes that visibility a little bit further, so we can get information on X-Protect, Gatekeeper, and MRT. So you can see there at the top that Apple protection status. That's just showing dashboards of users that are on the latest version of X-Protect, they're on the latest versions of MRT, and have Gatekeeper enabled on their device. So it gives you that nice at a glance sort of playing field. What's what I'm trying to say? The status that all your devices are at in your estate. So it's a good at a glance thing there. The other thing we have is the security benchmark. So we're utilizing this Center for Information Security. So it's called SysCat. And that is a kind of large number of here are things that there's like level 1 and level 2. SysCat exists for sort of all OSs. And we actually at Jamf kind of have documented all of those and allowed you to see them at a glance. So again, things like, is software, auto update enabled? Is Bluetooth enabled, or is Bluetooth disabled if there's no Bluetooth devices connected? And again, you can see at a glance the state of play. That's a word I was trying to get out earlier. The state of play on your devices, and see, what's up to date, what's needing remediation. And the other part is this unified logging. So this is a new part of Jamf Protect. Jamf Protect is a new product. It launched in the UK in April, in the EU in April, kind of fully. We're doing a soft launch prior to that, and even in that time, we've had new features in the application. So unified login, to do a proper analysis of potential threats or malicious events, you need all that data, right? So the more contextual data you have, the more informed you are. And you don't have, and what unified login does is it means you don't have to kind of go through that jigsaw puzzle. Though at the moment people might be enjoying a lot of jigsaw puzzles, myself included. Tapping into unified logs, we can pinpoint that device data, so you can see when users have done airdrop sends or done things like they've tried to do is escalated privileges in terminal using sudo but failed to do so. So again, gives you that extra piece of information, and then to analyze that data, we know most organizations would rely on something like a SIM. So this is an example of Jamf Protect data in a Splunk dashboard. So the data gets sent via JSON, comes through the compute, comes over 443, and allows users to, so you can see all the data from all your devices in one sort of unified location. So that kind of single pane of glass that folks, very much like. So this just gives you an idea of like alerts and logs that you can see in Splunk and things like that. Which, if you're on this call, you've got a good relationship with your security department, or you don't. This is a great tool to kind of start bridging those conversations, because for the first time, Protect will give your security departments real visibility of what is going on their Mac estate, with Protect, which I think is really powerful. So this is going to go back to unified login, it says. Okay, cool. So like the unified login part of it, just go back, sorry, apologies. The unified login piece will allow you to, just kind of get all that information in there. And you can see we have a lot of visual activity of all those endpoints, right? So that's a really useful thing to have. So the other thing that I wanted to talk about here is Gatekeeper and its limitations, right? So Jamf Protect offers a prevention of threats from a curated database. So obviously Gatekeeper uses the ability to have certificate, if something's not signed by a developer, it'll block it. But sometimes things can be signed, and then you can still have some sort of malicious activity. So we look here, see if a user attempts to run a process that is a known threat, right? And immediately upon execution, we've got a signature match. You see there that Jamf Protect has opened up an application and it's noticed it, and then immediately upon that, signature match, Jamf Protect has blocked it and removed that threat. I can actually play that video again for you there, guys, because I think it's actually quite cool to see it. So user gets a file downloaded, unzip it, they open up that file, try and run a command, and immediately there it says, this software has been identified as malicious, has been blocked, moved to quarantine, and reported to your IT administrator. So that's great, right? So users can download files. Some environments, users might be admins on their Mac because they're developers, or you just got that as a policy in your environment. I can download that file, run it, but because I've got Protect in place, I can have sort of checks and balances in place so that users aren't infected with any dodgy software. And then back and looking at the Jamf Protect side, we can see that threat prevention has taken place. And we've highlighted there all the threat prevention detection. And we get a really good sort of robust level of information there. So like if I look here, you can dive deeper into that. I can actually see, all the processes involved in execution, the binary information, where it was called from, as well as the hash information. So, I can take that hash information and create new analytics to block those things out as well if I want to. Really useful. So then in Jamf Protect, you kind of get, we've got this threat prevention piece, you get kept up to date on any version changes to the database as well. So the option of creating your own custom prevent lists to block processes that are unique to your organization. You can, so if you find all of a sudden, there's something that we maybe aren't detecting organically, we can immediately then, but you've just seen like notifications like I just shown, you can take those hashes and add that to this so that future devices won't be infected. So I guess for our last use case, we're going to take a look at some behavioral based detection and another example of remediation. So in this case, user has downloaded something that's called, and I'm sure we've all had this before. If you've ever seen this sort of page, it's like, oh, your Adobe Flash Player is out of date. It downloads this Flash installer from flashupdate.com, something like that. But you can see here immediately, I was going to pause that there, on the fact that installer downloading, we have, because with Jamf Connect, we can tie into Jamf Pro. So what's happening here is the Jamf Connect agent sees that some sort of malicious file has been downloaded. We have said in Jamf Protect, if you see this type of file be downloaded, tell Jamf Pro to move this device into a specific smart group. And then upon being added to that smart group, take action. So what's happening here is the moment that file is downloaded, the Jamf Connect agent, Jamf Protect agent talks to the Jamf Pro agent, and then Jamf Pro comes to the device and says, hey, here's a notification, your computer may be infected with malware. And you can see here, what we've actually done here is we've actually removed internet access on the device as well. So that computer is completely offline, and we kind of limit that breach and the impact of that breach, and it keeps the computer quarantined until somebody in the service desk can either talk to them, or they can pop over and have a look at it. So again, in Jamf Protect, all of that information on this event is reported. You can see here, this is Vicky's MacBook Pro, downloaded a file containing Flash, and then the file name has not been signed by Adobe. And actually, the really cool thing is you can see this download from, so you can see where that file has come from. So again, the security department sees a file being downloaded, like, right, where are all these update flashes coming from? They could even look to sort of use their firewall, things like that, to block that information. So that in a very short window shows you what Jamf Protect does. It gives you that visibility, that customer response and remediation, and an integration into your SIM. So we get that whole visibility into Mac OS. So we're using those built-in tools like Xprotect, Gatekeeper, and MRT. So the things that are already in your device today, you now have the ability to see all that information, what is happening on my Mac, what's going on to them. And again, if you want to put that into a SIM as well, all your security departments can see that. We get that customer response and remediation. So when devices do download sort of suspicious or malicious files, we can harness the power of Jamf Pro to get real-time remediation workflows and take advantage of those, and and enable the users to see what's going on their device. And again, let's say we've got that SIM integration or data endpoint integration, so that any alerts and logs that we're collecting from the device can be sent there as well. So we can have that huge, portal to see absolutely everything on your estate. And then, auditing is a big thing, especially at the moment where folks are all over the place. Macs are, out in the wild, as it were. We can have that auditing in place using Jamf Protect and the Center for Information Security to have a standard of, say, like, this is what we'd want to have our devices adhere to. This is the level that we want our Macs to hit, and take advantage of those standards so that we can, be confident and have a more secure environment. So the other things that we have in Jamf Protect is, like, we're mapping to, it's quite common security standards, is Mitras attack framework. If you're not familiar with it, it was new to me as well before I started learning about Jamf Protect. But all the analytics that we have in place, they're vetted by folks like Patrick Wardle, who is part of the Jamf Protect team, Objective-C, if you've ever come across that. And they're all using the Mitras attack framework. So if you're familiar with that and how the Mitras attack framework is, so different applications, different routes of entry when it comes to creating malicious software. That's how we're using those analytics in Jamf Pro. We're subscribing to those. We're analyzing Mac events at a device level. So it's not, the information is being done on the Mac. It's not being sent away, thought about and then sent back. It's all taking advantage of on-device tools. And then we're preserving that end user experience, right? So we're not having to install a kernel extension, some huge resource hogging agent. The Jamf Protect agent is really lightweight. It uses native macOS technologies. So that, you get that kind of Jamf experience that you know and love, I'd hope. And with all that, we kind of still can hammer home, I'm sure if you've ever been on a Jamf webinar before, that day zero experience. So we support the latest and most secure Mac OS the day they come out, and Jamf is never going to be the roadblock for you getting, your users on the latest and greatest. So I hope that gives you kind of a nice high level indication of what Jamf Protect does. Monitoring, detecting, preventing, and then remediating your Mac OS estate, and sitting alongside Jamf Pro to give you that kind of complete enterprise solution for your Macs. And I'll hand back to Gary for a bit of Q&A, which I imagine there might be.
Thank you very much, Ross. Really appreciate that. Okay, excellent. So at the moment, we only have one
Perfect.
chat box on the right-hand side. There is a slight delay between us and the attendees as well. So please, if you have any more questions, please start pumping them into the chat now. But currently the only one we have was that a separate Splunk installation required?
Yeah, so you would have Splunk set up. You'd already have a Splunk. You don't need Splunk. It's just more to show that we've got that there in the video. So like if you have something like that, like another SIM in there, we can send that information to it. Otherwise, you can just use Jamf Protect and its cloud interface as the resource for finding all the information that is getting reported on your Macs. Yeah.
Okay, we'll give a couple more minutes, see if we have any other questions coming through. Here we go. We have another one now for you, Ross. Does this replace the need for an additional AV, for example, Sophos or something else?
Yeah, so I think what we've sort of been saying is that I guess that's up to users. I think when you start using something like Protect, what it should do is it gives you a great visibility on everything that's happened on a Mac device, so that something like Sophos probably it won't Jamf Protect might not report on Windows vulnerabilities. From my experience, traditional AV sits on a Mac to tell you when Windows stuff has arrived on a Mac. That's usually actually, in terms of macOS security, really irrelevant, because it's like, well, it's not going to affect my Mac. And I think what we've been seeing is that on average, I think companies might have somewhere between 4 to 6 different agents on a device. And I think we're not going in saying you won't need to use these. If you want to have all those agents, be our guest. But I think what we have been saying is like, if you want to demo Jamf Protect, take a look at it. You probably find that actually this has given us a whole wealth of information that we didn't know was happening on the Macs, and is probably giving us a lot more than you were getting from a Sophos or something like that. So yeah, I see. And just to follow up on that, somebody else said, Jonathan, Stream. Apologies for saying your surname incorrectly there, Jonathan. Does Jamf Protect use CACT? No, it does not. So that's one of the big things that I started mentioning there. And that comes with that day zero support, right? In that it does not use any kernel extensions. It is a native Mac app, so you won't have to worry about things like, oh, kernel extensions going away, which some other third-party applications do rely on and can cause issues. So yes, that's one of the big things we have there.
Ross, we do have another one as well. Can you do a quick recap regarding the Insight tab functionality if you have a user who lost audio?
Oh yeah, sure. So the Insights is it's using that Center for Information Security. So if you just search like CIS-CAT, CAT, it's a standard of that kind of these online groups have created, and it's a big industry standard in the US. I guess it's probably what I could say is a more in-depth version of the Cyber Essentials from the UK government, and we're not remediating on this, but we're reporting on them. So you can, and again, there's actually some nice. It's on Jamf's GitHub. Remediation tools for SysCat. So you can just go through and say, right, I want all of my Macs to adhere to either a level 1 type or a level 2 type. Level 2 is like super lockdown Mac. It says some stuff like disable any file sharing, disable, and make sure it's pretty hellish from a user perspective, to be honest. But you are, it's giving you visibility in all those things. So like I think I mentioned in the call, like stuff like if you've got no Bluetooth devices enabled, make sure Bluetooth is turned off. Every time a user enters sudo, make sure they have to instantly, there's an instant timeout for sudo, so they have to constantly enter sudo. So there's always escalated privileges being accessed. Things like that. Is auto update enabled? Is AirDrop turned off? Things like that. So it gives you a good level of information that you can see in Jamf Protect. That here is everything on our Macs. They're all hitting these numbers. Okay, I've got 3 Macs that aren't hitting these. Right, let's go and look at what remediation steps we need to do to get there. But yeah, the insight is nice to see at a glance the state of play of all your Macs and how secure they are.
Cool. So where are we? Got quite a few questions coming in.
Kieran McGee, I see you there.
Yeah. Does Jamf Protect work with Jamf Now or only Jamf Pro?
So it only works with Jamf Pro because it's using the Jamf Pro agent. So yeah, it's just at this time. I mean, I guess that is, as the Americans say, that's a great question, great feature request. But yeah, at this time, it only works with Jamf Pro. So they're talking to agent.
Okay. Are you saying I'm wasting my time with ISSA on all Macs? I'm guessing that's another antivirus.
Yeah, I mean,
software
I don't know.
Macs.
I'm not familiar with. I think it's ISSA, right? People call it ISSA.
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with it. I think what would be good is if you are interested in Jamf Protect, schedule a call with your account manager at Atama or Academia and take a look at it. We'll get you set up with a 30-day trial and see what you think. That would be the best way to go about it.
Cool. We have access to Jamf Protect interface, web or app, Mac only.
So the Jamf Protect is hosted in the cloud. So it's a web interface. So yeah, what you get, I guess, is access to your name protect.jamfcloud.com. And then that will give you all the visibility of the information. And then the installer is obviously a PKG file because it's Mac OS only. But yeah, you can access the website from any device you like.
I have a question for you actually. Can you integrate it into your single pane of Jamf Pro?
So they're not. They're separate. They're separate things at the moment because you don't need Jamf Pro to have. So Jamf Pro gives you those extra remediation steps, but from a purely reporting aspect, you only need Jamf Protect. And I know that there's things coming that will potentially mean that you're less reliant on Jamf Pro, but they're all to be confirmed.
More, I guess.
Exactly. Yeah.
Excellent. Another one. What cat? Sorry, missed the URL.
Let me see if I can find syscat for you. I don't actually know what CAT stands for, to be honest with you. There's so many acronyms. Let me see if I can find it and I'll put it in the chat. This is it here. You can have more information on it. I've popped that in the chat for everyone. And then this is for macOS Sierra, but it's still fairly relevant. Actually, Syscat only just put out the latest versions. So that's the GitHub where we were kind of putting out different standards and how to hit them.
Excellent, cool. And looks like the last one that we've had come in is cost for education. So prices per device or for all devices.
So it's still per device for Jamf Protect. I think if you're keen on looking at Jamf Protect, it's a new product. We're very keen to get new folks trying it out, especially in education. So I think there's a very nice conversation to be had for me to put my sales hat on for a second there. So if you're keen on it, I think let's definitely reach out to your first academia and we can start coming up with some nice numbers.
Excellent, thank you for that. We'll give it a couple more minutes to see if we have any more questions coming in. Please do post them in, guys. If not, me and Ross will stay around after. You'll hear some nice music and we'll wait around if anyone has any other questions as well.
Yeah. Oh, here you go, Jonathan. My organization is Malwarebytes, McAfee antivirus. Would Jamf Protect replace this or complement the two? Yeah, for me personally, and again, this is just my personal opinion, not an opinion of Jamf, I certainly wouldn't see the need for having McAfee antivirus on my Mac if I had Protect. because it's going to give me visibility of everything that's happening on my device anyway. So I would, like as mentioned before,
I'd agree on that one as well. Kind of, it's better to just have one. If you're using Jamf Pro as it is, then it's nice to have.
Yeah, exactly. You can get you can lock down that device really nicely. You can get complete visibility of everything that's happened on the Mac with just Jamf Pro and Protect. So yeah, like I say, if that's something you'd be interested in to see, could you live in a McAfee Malwarebytes free world? Certainly have a look at Protect and see what you're getting from your current applications, current software, and seeing what you could have instead with us, and I guess the impact to the users as well.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, I'm just going to post my details in the chat as well. If you do have any other questions, please feel free to reach me on my email address there. Anything related to today's webinar or anything in MDM-wise in general, please do reach out to me. But thank you for everyone who's joined today, and Ross, thank you once again for
Pleasure.
an excellent presentation. Really appreciate it. So thank you everyone who joined, and have a lovely day.
Cheers, guys.
Thank you.